make it fit.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
This is Radio Imanzi broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Omoganwa. The headlines. Rwanda has partnered with Google and Apple to launch the COVID-19 exposure notifications system in the country. The 5th edition of the Youth Connect Summit ended in Kigali with calls to invest in youth. The flag of Gabon was raised today at the Commonwealth headquarters. Welcome back. News in detail. The Ministry of Health, through the Rwanda Biomedical Center, today carried out an exercise at the King Faisal Hospital to test medical personnel on their readiness during a probable Ebola outbreak in Rwanda. Even though no Ebola case has been registered in Rwanda, the country continues to conduct a simulation exercise to ensure Ebola preparedness. Rwanda has partnered with Google and Apple to launch the COVID-19 exposure notifications system in the country. Google and Apple jointly created the system to help governments and the global community to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the first of its kind collaboration between Apple and Google. Under the name Rwanda Notify, QT Global Software Limited will establish this system locally, making Rwanda the second country in Africa to adopt this contact tracing technology. Minister Paula Ingabire said while traditional contact tracing efforts are effective, technologies like exposure notifications augment these efforts and make the job simpler. Upon activating Rwanda Notify on iOS or downloading the app on Android, users can receive or send exposure notifications when they and their contacts have tested positive for COVID-19. The phone exchanges random anonymous codes through Bluetooth with the phones of nearby people who also have enabled Rwanda Notify on their smartphones. Whenever a Rwanda Notify user tests positive for COVID-19 and adds their verification code to the app, Rwanda Notify sends anonymous notifications to any other users who have been near the infected person in the past 2 weeks. This lets the user get the care they need quickly and helps prevent them from spreading COVID-19 to other people. The 5th edition of the Youth Connect Summit ended in Kigali with calls to invest in youth. Thousands of young innovators and leaders from all across the world attended the event to discuss different ways to promote growth and advancement for the youth of the African continent. According to findings by the United Nations Development Programs, 42% of young people in Africa don't have access to the funding needed to run their businesses. They therefore forced to get that funding. Sometimes their ideas remain in the back of their brains and they are unable to take their dreams to the market and reach their customers. High-level delegates, including President Paul Kagame, stressed that the young are a resilient movement that will contribute to a prosperous 2063 agenda for a better Africa. The African Union's 2063 agenda is the continent's framework which aims to deliver on goals for inclusive and sustainable development. It is a manifestation of the Pan-African drive for unity, self-determination, freedom, progress, and collective prosperity. This year's Youth Connect Summit was on the theme Accelerating Investments in Youth, Resilient Africa. Rwanda and other African countries are pushing for a fund that could compensate developing countries for a loss and damage caused by climate change, according to Faustin Munyazikwiye, Deputy Director General of Rwanda Environment Management Authority. The developing countries want to be compensated for the harm caused by the emissions from the developed ones. The fund that was proposed by developing countries to support their efforts to tackle climate change was rejected by big powers which highly contribute to global warming at the 26th UN Climate Conference 26 that took place last year in Glasgow. The Loss and Damage Compensation Fund, which Rwanda is also pushing, will be a hot topic and developing countries' priorities at the 27th UN Climate Conference, according to environmental experts. Munyazikwiye said climate finance is the priority of Africa, including Rwanda. According to the study, Africa will need around US $133 billion annually in clean energy investment to meet its energy and climate goals between 2026 and 2030. However, earning investment in renewable energy, arguably the most attractive sector for commercial investors, stands at a mere $9.4 billion. The East African Legislative Assembly is bringing its plenary sessions to Kigali. As announced by the Regional House, the upcoming fifth session of the Fourth Assembly will take place at the Parliament of Rwanda from October 23rd to November 5th. Some of the outstanding issues the Fourth Assembly is likely to try and conclude before its term ends in December include the debate on the East African Community Sexual and Reproductive Health Bill. In June, lawmakers embarked on the final leg of their consultations on the draft law, which is meant to protect and facilitate the attainment of sexual and reproductive health and rights of people in the East African community. Lawmakers and stakeholders such as Health Development Initiative, an independent non-profit organization based in Kigali, are pushing for the draft law to be passed and enacted as soon as possible.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
The Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report. The trading session recorded its total turnover of 7,687,500 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in one deal on the fixed income market and 25,800 Rwandan francs from 600 I&M Bank shares traded in one deal on the equities market. The equities counters closed with I&M Bank at 43 Rwandan francs, Bralirwa at 170 Rwandan francs, Bank of Kigali at 272 Rwandan francs, Simerwa at 120 Rwandan francs, MTN Rwanda at 176 Rwandan francs, Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Uchumi Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and R8 Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. Burundian franc buying price was 0.5 and the selling price was 0.51. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.27 and the selling price was 0.275. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.44 and the selling price was 0.45. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.5 and the selling price was 8.7. The euro buying price was 1,009 and the selling price was 1,029. The British pound buying price 1,166 and the selling price was 1,189. The US dollar buying price 1,036 Rwandan francs and the selling price 1,056 Rwandan francs.
some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
The flag of Gabon was raised today as the Commonwealth headquarters for the first time in a ceremony marking the country's entry into the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland and the President of Gabon, Ali Bongo Ondimba, led the flag-raising ceremony, formally welcoming the Commonwealth newest member. The Commonwealth Secretary General said at the ceremony that this is to further strengthen the relationship between the Francophone and Anglophone families across the world. Residents of Kigoma in Tanzania will start using electricity from the national grid today, as President Samia Suluhu Hassan said, to completely switch off the expensive diesel-powered generating plants at Kasulu. The move, which will save the government 22.4 billion shillings of what was being spent in each year on purchasing fuel to feed the generators, assures residents of Kigoma a sustainable source of power to propel economic activities in the region. The United States Justice Department asked a judge today to sentence Donald Trump's former AD, Steve Bannon, to 6 months in prison for refusing to testify in Congress's probe of the January 60th, 2021 attack on the Capitol. Bannon, a longtime political strategist and vocal advocate for the Republican former president, was found guilty in July on two counts of contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena to testify. The Justice Department said in a sentencing recommendation that the 68-year-old Bannon should receive the 6-month sentence and pay a fine of $200,000 because he repeatedly sought to delay the proceedings by hinting he might cooperate. The Ethiopian government reiterated its willingness to hold peace talks, but said it would continue military operations in the northern region of Tigray, a day after the African Union called for an immediate end to hostilities there. The African Union Commission chairperson Musa Faki Mahama had called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, saying he was gravely concerned by reports of intensified fighting in the region. According to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's federal government, a comprehensive and negotiated settlement that brings lasting peace is necessary. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.